Hello. In this clip from our Justia webinar, Great Life, Great Practice, the 4 cornerstones of law firm success, Kimberly Lee will guide you through different tips that will help you manage your time effectively so you can run your practice more efficiently. Remember, if you want to see more Justia videos on law practice and legal marketing, be sure you're subscribed to our channel.
So we all went to law school. And after law school, we had to study really hard to then pass the bar exam. And so once we get through the bar exam, we became attorneys. And as attorneys, we are trained as academic achievers. But when you open your own practice, you're not just an attorney anymore, but you're also a business owner. Law school taught us how to think like a lawyer, but it didn't teach us how to be a good business owner. So the business skills that we need to manage to grow a successful law firm are very, very different than what we have learned in law school. It's somewhat irrelevant as to how brilliant you are as an attorney. If you're not a good business owner and you have no clients, there's no one to benefit from your brilliant legal skills. So we want to make sure we share that with you. Now, let's start with the concept of mindset. As you can imagine, the skill set to be a business owner is very different than the skill set to be a good attorney. You may feel that once you're a good attorney, you should be able to be a good business owner, but that's not true at all because we're actually our own worst enemy. So I want you to think about that for a moment. When I share some of the strategies and tips and everything that we have learned with you, I want you to think about it for a moment, because some of these will come across to you as counterintuitive. Some will make perfect sense to you, but some will be, well, I'm not sure that's going to work for my practice. I want you to take a leap of faith with me, because as attorneys, our natural instinct is to create a counter argument as to why things won't work. That's our skill set, to figure it out how to see things from both sides. So keep an open mind and then come to the journey with me today. Now, so where do you start? If you Google how to manage a law firm, you'll get 10,000 hits within like 10 seconds, right? So if you have all this information, where do you start? If you are people who like using puzzles or have puzzle boxes, you know where to start. You start with the 4 corners, and that's how you get foundation to be able to start the whole picture. So let me introduce you to the 4 cornerstones of practice growth. This concept actually was created by Atticus, and Atticus is a national coaching firm that helps attorneys to create a great life and a great practice. They have been very generous to allow me to share different information with you today. So I just finished building a house. So when you build a house, one of the most important things to do is to have a strong foundation. So if you look at this structure here, the concept here, if you want to build a successful law firm, you have to start with a strong foundation. And that foundation is your legal skills. Justia offers many educational programs, as you know, in different practice areas. So that will help you to sharpen your legal skills. But since you're here today, I assume you're competent in all areas of practice that you are focusing in. Now you want to grow that practice so you can serve more clients. So the 4 different areas you want to focus on is time management, client development, marketing, building a great team, and cash flow and profitability. So with the legal skills as your foundation, and then focusing on your skill set on the 4 cornerstones to grow your practice, then the result is going to be producing higher revenue for you, higher net income, give you control over your practice, your time, your life, creating the freedom for you, and also allow you to make an impact to the legal profession as well as the society. So let's start with time management. So time management is really not as fun and exciting as, say, compared to marketing, hiring and firing, or profitability. But without time management, you won't have time to do marketing. And without marketing, you won't have time to be able to hire the team to support the work that will be coming in. And without a great team to leverage your time, you won't have the profitability. So we're going to do this sequentially, starting from time management, client development and marketing, building a great team, and cash flow and profitability. So time management is really a misnomer because you cannot manage time. It's really managing your focus with the time that you have. So time and not money is really our greatest and most valuable resource. You can always make more money, but you cannot make more time. All of us have 24 hours a day, every day. So the reality is we want to focus today on the focus, not on the time. So if your workday looks like this in the morning and you have competing interests that need to get done today, you have stickies everywhere and dozens of late tasks and urgent phone calls and emails to respond. And then you end your day this way after working 12, 13, 15 hours and you're exhausted and you still have a pile of work to do. You're at the right place at the right webinar. So let me share with you 6 key strategies to get you started. So these 6 key strategies are client selection, time template, daily focuser, interruption log, question batching, and taming your email box or boxes. I'm sure all of us have multiple email boxes. And how do we make sure we don't let that control our life? So we'll go through each of the strategies one by one. As you come across these, and this is something that is really echoing what you're experiencing in the office, make sure you put a star next to it or jot it down or make a note to yourself so you can capture the information and what you want to start focusing on. Now, first start with the client selection. This is a Pareto principle where 80% of the revenue is going to come from 20% of the good clients, and 20% of that bad clients, they're going to use up 80% of your time. Now, what is a good client? What's a bad client? I'm sure you can tell me what is a good client for you and what a bad client looks like. Now, the good clients are the ones that paid you on time and in full, follow your advice, appreciate everything that you do, refer all their friends to you, and send you a holiday basket every holiday and tell you how much they appreciate what you have done for them, right? Now, the bad clients are those who complain about everything, being non-responsive to your phone calls, your emails, or your requests, and they don't follow your advice. Then they blame you for it, and they refuse to pay you at the end because they don't think you did a good job. And then when you send your invoice to them again and telling them that if they don't pay you, you're sending your bill to the collection agency, then they report you to the state bar and threatening to sue you for malpractice. That is a bad client. And then they post a bad review on Yelp and Google to tell everyone what a horrible attorney you are. So that's the bad client. They're always going to suck up your time more than you realize. So client selection is really the most important part when you are increasing your client base. Now, let me introduce you to a tool called the client selection matrix. Okay, so it's very simple form. You can see A, B, C, D. That's kind of the grades for your clients. Looking at the client personality, the type of case, the case value. Is it collectible? Are you going to get paid at the end? Referral source, is this referred by a trusted colleague, another attorney, another professional, or is from Google search? Also, client expectations. There are clients who would have expectations that you can never meet, and those will not be the best choice for you. So this is going to be different for each of you. So for example, if you want a client personality, the A client would look like they're honest, they tell you the truth, they're communicative, they are appreciative, they are grateful people, you're there to help them. A bad client, a client personality will be demanding. On the first phone call, they're rude to you, rude to your staff. and they want everything done yesterday and they don't want to give you a retainer. So that will be a D client. So you want to be really careful what that client looks like. But before you even get the first phone call and do the selection, it's important for you to sit down to look at what kind of A clients is the right ones for your firm. And that's different for everyone because, for example, if you're in, say, family law and you would like high conflict, you may want the personality of a client who wants high conflict, who wants to torch the earth at the end. And it's going to be high case value. And this is the case that you're looking for. Is it collectible? You want to make sure they have a large retainer. They're willing to pay you for it. If you're in a different practice area, you don't want client to be in conflict, high conflict. We're in the trust and estate practice. We want clients to be the one who would love their family, who are nice people, who appreciate things that we do for them. And understanding working with us is going to benefit them much greater than the alternative. So depending on what kind of practice you're in and your own personality, you may choose different types of client as A clients versus B, C, or D clients. My recommendation is try not to take any other than A or B clients. But because we're just having this conversation, you may already have C and D clients currently. I would highly recommend you review that and consider firing them as your clients. And that will free up a lot of your time that will be wasted. And that will then create time for you to do other things such as marketing to be able to bring in more good clients for you. The next strategy is time template. You may or may not heard of this concept. Time template is basically to have a kind of a model week. Okay, it's a tool to create your ideal week. For example, in the perfect world, what would your work week look like? Obviously, it's different for each person. So for example, some attorneys, they see clients 5 days a week, and some see clients 3 days a week. Some see clients only in the morning, and some only in the afternoon, depending on your schedule. So I would recommend that you take a look at this and then put together an ideal week for you. Now, this is not trying to restrict you, but trying to give you a framework so that you can block out the calendar accordingly. And so those blocks, for example, for clients will then be scheduled. For our office, for example, we schedule only on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. Those are our game days or client days. And Monday, we have office meetings and internal work. And then Friday, typically, we save it as an emergency day in case client has an emergency, or we have a catch-up day. So that's kind of our structure. And do we do it 100% of the time? No. If we hit 80%, I'm happy. There are always going to be exceptions in that process. As you know, it's a law firm. Client will have emergencies. Now, for those of you who are trial lawyers, you're going to tell me that, well, it's not going to work for me because I'm in trial. Well, you're going to then look at the time templates, two different kinds. One will be during trial. One will be when non-trial weeks. So then you can have two different kinds to be able to follow that will give you a much better framework for your practice. And you want also to train your team members or your receptionist or intake person to make sure they follow your time template as much as possible. Anything going outside of that template or ideal week, they can check with you, so you can always make exceptions. And this will going to help you to be able to structure your week with highest productivity. Now, this is a template, so don't feel like you have to follow it exactly. And I'm happy to tell you that this has helped us greatly in our office. Now, the next one is called the Daily Focuser. This is just an example. This is an Atticus Daily Focuser. I personally don't use this. I use a day planner. And I would highly recommend you can use this, happy to share this with you, or create your own. And I would also suggest not using it electronically because we use so much technology in our office to leverage our time. It's very difficult to do this electronically. That's why I use analog, as in day timer with a pen, literally with a pen, an erasable pen, and with the book. And that way I can put down what I need to do each day, my top 3 priorities, my next 3 priorities, what am I going to do, my regular schedule. So for example, this daily focuser doesn't work for me in that I don't exercise in the morning. I exercise after work. So some of you do it in the morning, so you can do that as well. So there's no right or wrong of doing things. It's really just a framework for you to have a central location to focus each day. Otherwise, your day is going to be controlled by the phone calls, emails coming in. It's very often we get out of bed. What do you do the first thing you do when you get out of bed? I'm pretty sure some or not, if not most of you, get up in the morning, you grab your cell phone. And the first thing you do is to check your email. And depending on who sent you the email, all of a sudden, that emergency becomes your priority that day. So without a daily focuser tool, everybody else is going to control your calendar on a daily basis. So do not check your email first thing in the morning, but use your focuser first thing in the morning, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's a time booklet, whether it's a day planner, whatever you want to use. Is the key here is to actually use it and don't check your email. The next tool here is called the interruption log. You may or may not know this, but interruption is one of the greatest time thefts in the world. It takes 23 minutes on average, based on a study, for you to return to your focus once you're interrupted. Now, we all believe that we can multitask and we can answer a quick question and come back to where we were doing. That's not true at all. So one of the tools you want to use is to actually find out what are the interruptions that comes in. So this is a piece of paper. What I did was I put it on the clipboard in my office to do some almost like a scientific analysis. So you look at what is it? Somebody walked into me, knock on my door and say, Kimberly, do you have a moment or do you have a minute? So I put down who that person is that walked in and what's the purpose of the question and the length of time it took. And was it a priority? Was it an emergency? Or it was just something silly? And then once you have this, you'll find out how many interruptions you actually are getting every single day. And you see the form here, it says person, it means somebody walks in. A phone means somebody call you, that call was transferred to you. And environment means that it's, for example, your notification, all the things and all the phones and texting and notifying you there's another email, notifying you that somebody left you a text message, notifying you there's a sale at Amazon. All these are interruptions. So sometimes the most interruption is coming from ourselves, from our lack of control for our notification tools. The next one is called the question batching. If you have any team members at all in the office, you will know they'll come in and ask you a question. They ask you the question for the following reasons. Either they were not properly trained, so they don't know how to perform a task. So they need to interrupt you to ask you in order to perform their task. Or they wanted some verification of their action they're about to take because they're afraid to screw up and they don't want to lose their job. Or they're just delegating up. They don't want to be accountable for their action. So they'll come and ask you. So if you, the boss, say, sure, go ahead and do that, and it turned out to be a bad judgment call or bad decision, is not on them. So what I want you to do is stop these interruptions by having them batching their questions. So they interrupt you just once a day by asking the questions. Then you can focus and address your questions or determine whether or not it's a training issue so you can help them to grow, to help you in your office. So let me share with you some of the concepts. So imagine a bakery and they're baking pies. It'll be a lot more efficient to be able to make all the crusts, make all the fillings, fill the pies, bake the pies, and then box the pies and sell the pies. But if the bakery were to make one crust, make one filling, bake one pie, box one pie. And once it's done with that first pie, they go back and start all over again from making a crust. This bakery is going to go out of business, right? So you want to make sure that the workflow and also the questions that coming to you is consistent, is also batched together. So some of the tools you can use a paper form. We started with a paper form that everybody in the office has a piece of paper called a question batching form, or you can use electronic documents, and basically the information will be the same. It will contain case name, basic facts of what the case is about, so you know what they're referring to, the issue or the question they want to ask, and also I ask them to come up with the proposed solutions. This helps them to start thinking process as to how to solve their own issues and problems that come in, so they can have good judgment calls. We started with a paper form, and as I mentioned before, and everybody would have their form. And most of the time, once they write it down or type it into the electronic form of their question, they came out with a proposed solution. They came out with their own solution. They didn't need you after all, because they're lazy as to just asking you is a lot easier than doing some thinking ahead of time. Currently, we use, as I mentioned, electronic form. So that way they can put it in the electronic document, and then we save that as a knowledge base. So in the future, if they have similar questions, they can then go back and look at that as a resource versus having to ask you the same questions more than once. I'm sure many of you can relate to the fact that you have been asking the same question by your team members over and over and over again. This will prevent that from happening. It's a great training tool for your office and for your team. So now let's turn to emails. Oh my goodness. Remember the old movie, You've Got Mail, with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks? Well, that was back in 1998. And back then, some of you may not be old enough to have seen that movie, but it was exciting to get an email. But today, we literally receive hundreds and hundreds of emails today, every day, and it's only going to get worse. Now, I was in such a poor shape with my email. I actually hit bottom when I had 23,612 emails in my email box. And I was terrified. I couldn't sleep. I was worried I'm going to miss something. I figured I was going to commit malpractice somewhere. I missed something important. It was extremely stressful. And when I hit bottom, I thought I had to find a better way. I talked to a colleague who is a email ninja, and he shared with me, you got to start over, Kimberly. You just have to start over. So I actually started becoming really good at emails. So I'll share some of these tools with you today. Now imagine if your email is paper mail. Office would look like this. So how do you end up with all these thousands of emails in the first place? Well, imagine if you go to your mailbox and pick up your mail. Okay, so instead of picking it up and bring it back to your office or bring it to your home, what you actually did was to go to your mailbox, fetch one piece of mail, walk back to your office, open it, and realize it's an invoice. You pull out your check, you write a check. Does it remind you of something? Does that remind you of pie baking? Then you mail that check in an envelope, then put a stamp on it. Then you go back out to the mailbox again and fetch another piece of mail. And this time it's a piece of information somebody sent you, which you don't need right now, but you thought maybe someday I will need that piece of information. So you decide to put it back into the mailbox so you can fetch it later. Then you pick up the next mail and go back to your house or go back to your office and read it again. This is what we do with our email box. And this is what causes the problem of having literally thousands of emails. Okay, so if you get my point. So you got to have a system to do this. Otherwise, you're going to be consumed with email in the future. Studies have shown that we're only getting more emails versus less in the future. So this is called the inbox zero system. okay? And it's not complicated. It's actually systematic. And this is really, you can Google this, it's everywhere, okay? This is how you clear out your email box to get to inbox zero. Now, don't get confused where inbox zero, meaning that just remove all the email from your inbox and that's it. That's not it. Inbox zero really is to process email to inbox zero. So I want to share with you what you do is not check your email, but to process your email. So number one is that you want to unsubscribe to any email you don't want to receive. Now, remember when you unsubscribe, what happens? They actually put you on a different list that you have unsubscribed. So they send you something different. I use an email app that helps to put them in it's called a black hole. And so therefore I never see it again, okay? And also you want to look at, these are the actions: unsubscribe, delete, archive, do it later, or do it now. Okay, so you only have these 5 choices. And so you take one of these actions when you process your email box. So if I get an email from a friend who says, Kimberly, I'd like to have lunch with you next week, would Tuesday work for you? This is a 2-minute task. I will then check my calendar. I see I'm open Tuesday for lunch. I will then get back and say, sounds great. See you at 123 Apple Street next Tuesday. Then I archive that email, put it on my calendar. That's a 2-minute task. So that's how you process it. The reason is because if it takes less than 2 minutes or around 2 minutes to handle, and you actually save it for later, it will take a lot longer because you're looking at that same piece of mail again. So 2-minute task, do it now. If this is going to be something that will take longer, what I do is I task it. I task it on my practice management software. This is a task to perform because it takes more than 2 minutes. Then I'll put it into to respond folder so that I can take action later. You can archive it because right now the email boxes have very good search functions. So if you have a piece of information, don't keep it in your email box, just archive it. And what I typically do is people are not very specific when you send emails with a subject line. I would do is I forward it to myself, change the subject line to something I can search and find later. Information on Proposition 19. Update on blah, 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 whatever it is. And then I archive it. And later on, if I need to have that piece of information, all I have to do is to search my email box, it will pop up again. Okay. And then the most important part is delete. This is a junk mail, delete, delete, delete. Okay. Unsubscribe. Those are just really use those 2 buttons. And so that way you can clear it out right away. Now, how do you do that when you have 23,000 emails in your box? You're probably not as bad as me. You probably only have, 10 of them or 20 or 100. What you do is put into one email box that to be sorted later and then start from 0. That's how you get started.
We hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more law practice and legal marketing videos. See you in our next clip.